cannot change the world. If you want to change the world, you change yourself, your relationship to myself, and then from changing the relationship to myself, I'm able to respond better to the world. This is my responsibility. So I teach this Hatha classic, a very traditional form, the way I learned it in India with the babas and everything. So it's a lot of pranayama, it's not so much asanas, not so much postures, it's not so much, it's still quite intense when we do posture, it's a lot of fire, it's a lot about creating fire inside, the fire of transformation within. This is moving the prana, getting hold of the subtle bodies. Second suffering, the one we inflict by repeating always in our head what we did wrong or what we did this, or I don't want this to happen. This suffering, yeah, it can be tackled down. And we can find this freedom inside.
Welcome to this new episode, and today I am here with Santosh. How are you, Santosh?
Very good, thanks.
Very nice. So Santosh is a yoga teacher and the creator of meditation retreats in complete darkness. So this is very interesting topic. So first of all, I'd like to ask you, what is your story in life?
I started very young to be interested to live away from my country. I think from already the age of 20, I left my country. I was doing studies in neurosciences. I was doing bachelor or something like this, a license. Yeah, I was doing a license in biochemistry and also in the neurosciences. It was good, but somehow I was not feeling so inspired to live in France. Mm-hmm. And I jumped into an occasion when my friend was already in India for a few months. And he told me, come and meet me there where we can go and travel. And so I decided to go to India. And since I'm 20, I never came back to France.
Wow, so you've been outside
always,
for a long time.
Yeah, always.
Between India and Thailand?
So I lived in India from, let's say, 20 to 30 most of the time. And I learned there a lot of yoga. And I'm very happy actually of my life because it was a special time in the 90s to be in India. Mm-hmm. And yes, it was, that's why I learned a lot of stuff and meditated a lot, and I understand yoga and meditation is the same anyway. We always tend to differentiate. We think yoga is just this fitness thing and we do but it's meditation really the aim of yoga. It's freedom inside. Anyway, and then after the 30s, I lived in Australia for maybe another 8 years or something. Mm-hmm. And I became Australian there. It was great. I was living on the West Coast. I was a builder. So I became a builder like from a bum. I was like a bum, because I was just practicing yoga, climbing, practicing yoga, and just doing odd jobs here and there for all my 20s. And at 30s, I decided to, when I was in Australia, to live there and to have a life, to see how it feels to pay tax.
Have a normal life.
Yeah, to have a house, to have a girlfriend, to have 2 cars. So I did it. After a few years, I had a girlfriend, 2 cars. I had a house we bought with the bank, and I had a business. I was building. I lasted a few years, and then somehow life took us apart. We broke up. Still very good friends, and I decided to travel again and to let go of this life. It was not for me. I realized I always had a distance over it. I was trying, kind of like to live in the normal world, but yeah. So I went back in India and studied there and practiced a bit more, and then I ended up in Copenhagen. And this when since I live in Copenhagen for 20 years or so.
Wow, so you've been an original kind of founder of the Kopangan conscious community 20 years ago.
For sure, in Sri Tanu, when I started to live there was only yogis there. There was no all these restaurants and things like that. We were only a small amount.
What an experience.
It was really quiet. It was very different. We just do potlucks where we meet each other. Like this, we talk about practice, we talk about meditation, about retreats, and we were the first one in Copenhagen to do parties without drugs, without alcohol. We would just call it parties without drugs and alcohol. And later on, when I came back to Copenhagen, I left for like a few years to travel, and then I came back. I left for about 4 or 5 years. And then when I came back, it was called ecstatic dance. It was funny. I could see the progress, like, yeah. And then there's a lot of people and everything, yeah. So yeah, things change always. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is what I did, yeah.
That's very interesting what you say. That's a very interesting, fascinating lifestyle already you had. And in India, I mean, you lived there for 10 years plus. So you, there was like Goa or like Rishikesh or any specific place?
No, I was, I didn't like to go to Goa. I was a bit of a purist at the time. So I didn't like all these like rave parties and all these like drugs and all these people. I thought it was not my scene, mate. Like I didn't like it at all.
So like the Himalayas, or what was your
Yes, I trekked a lot in the Himalayas. I did many walks by myself, meeting very interesting people on the way. Mainly that, and also I visited Gujarat. I visited, which is not a state, which is sort of like a touristic state also, but very interesting people live there. And in Rajasthan a little bit with the tourists it was okay, and also in the south in Tamil Nadu. But mainly I was on the north. I even went to Tibet for like 6 months. I stayed and hitchhiking there and everything, and yeah, it was good.
That is an adventurous life, right? So you always felt safe in India, right? And traveling the world.
Yeah. I was, for example, when I was in Tibet, I was just hitchhiking. I was sleeping on the floor. I was walking for hundreds of kilometers along the road.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really free. Like when I was 21, I think I did that, or 22. And I loved it. It was such amazing freedom there. I even got arrested by the Chinese police at some stage. And they released me after maybe a week or something. And yeah, it was really very interesting because I was all like an illegal traveler there. So they thought I was a spy or something from the CIA or I don't know what. But I was so young that we thought, okay, just go.
But that's fascinating because, you know, in Copenhagen, of course, attracts different kind of people, but you have also people like yourself that really had such a vocation for travel and adventure and yoga as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about sort of your yoga training? What kind of style you like?
So I'm lucky now. I work for a yoga school called One Yoga.
Yes, of course, it's one of the major schools here in Copenhagen.
And I teach the teacher training courses. And lucky enough, the owner of the studio there, they let me teach what I want to teach. So I teach this Hatha classic, very traditional form, the way I learned it in India with the babas and everything. So it's a lot of pranayama, it's not so much asanas, not so much postures, it's not so much, it's still quite intense when we do posture, it's a lot of fire, it's all about creating fire inside, the fire of transformation within. This is moving the prana, getting hold of the subtle bodies. It's a very different work from what normally the other teacher training teach about vinyasa flow, ashtanga flow, all of this. It's very different. Yeah, I've never been very big into this sort of yoga. They're more like a latest addition to yoga, like only maybe a century old at the most. So I'm more into the ancient yoga, medieval hatha yoga, I would call it, you know, where really what brings the transformation inside, really what, and it's a lot of pranayama, a lot of practice, and you always end up in meditation, absorption inside, yeah.
Yeah, because just earlier on you said that indeed meditation and yoga is the same thing, because yoga ultimately wants to lead the practitioner into meditation, right?
Yes,
That's the ultimate goal of yoga, is to live a meditative life and to achieve meditation effectively. Is that correct?
Exactly, it's a philosophy too. That's why I teach the philosophy there also. I love teaching the philosophy because it goes hand to hand. The practice of yoga is both, is like having the practice and verifying through your practice, through your experience, through your state of consciousness, the philosophy. And in yoga there's many different philosophies, but they all tend to say the same thing. You have the karma, through the karma we suffer, through the suffering we want to get free from the suffering, we find the freedom from the suffering. This is the message of yoga for thousands of years, getting the end of this inner conflict inside. We suffer from our own inflicted pain. We inflict each other, ourselves, always our pain. We have one form of pain we cannot stop. We call it this karma, which accumulated from the past, which is going to come into your life. You cannot stop that. Your life sometimes is going to be good and sometimes it's going to be shitty. It's just the way it is. But the second suffering, the one we inflict by repeating always in our head what we did wrong or what we did this, or I don't want this to happen, this suffering, it can be tackled down. And we can find this freedom inside.
Yeah, just calming the mind. And
all of this part of it, yes.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
And of course, if you start yoga, it's very good to start in the gym doing the vinyasa, no problem. But then if you really have a passion for it and you start really feeling the benefits, you might be called to go to India to a more traditional ashram, or to experience different styles of yoga, or even come to Kopangan and do a dark retreat. Is that right? But that's like a little bit more advanced.
The dark retreat is different. It's a form of practice. Like you have yoga, and within yoga you have different form of practice, or within some other, for example, Tibetan yoga, you will have different form of practice. Like yoga has been absorbed in many different religion and currents of search. And dark retreats also, you find the dark retreats in all the traditions in the world. Mm-hmm. You find them in South America, you find them in the Christian tradition, you find them in even in the Muslim, I think, you find them even in, and especially you find them a lot in Vajrayana, which is a Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah. You find them a lot there in this tantric form. And why we practice in the dark is we use that as an amplifier of your own practice. A way to test yourself, to see how far you've been with yourself, to check out your relationship onto yourself. Meditation, like we talked before, we said, one aspect of it is to find this inner freedom, to find this inner truth inside, to be less suffering, to reduce a bit the inner suffering. But for that, it goes hand to hand with creating a new relationship to oneself. A relationship which is much more open, much more kind, much more conscious of your inner state, your inner voice, the way you talk to yourself, the way you respond to your inner thoughts, and creating space there that you can observe, the witness. So when you're in the dark, what happens, this witness, this capacity to observe, to discern what is your physical body, what is you, what is your deeper way to observe, become very amplified. So if you're already doing some practice of meditation, you've done some retreats, and you think that you achieve some kind of new relationship to yourself, and you want to test it out. Really, am I really peaceful now? Okay, life will always test you anyway. You don't need to go to a dark retreat. But if you want to really push it a bit more, then you can go to a dark retreat, because life always tests you, right? If I go home now to see my mom, I'm gonna get tested, right? when you see your family, close ones, when you can be free in an ashram and meditate all day, super good. And you go home. It happens to me before. I was like doing in my 20s. I thought I was really like free and everything now, and I can teach others to. And I go back to France, and it was so hard. It was just impossible, because I was trying to change people. I had this agenda. Now my mom can be more happy, and this can be better. And I realized after a few years that it was ridiculous. You cannot change people. You cannot change the world. If you want to change the world, you change yourself, your relationship to myself, and then from changing the relationship to myself, I'm able to respond better to the world. This is my responsibility, my ability to respond. Yeah, many times responsibility is like more like something that we think is a burden. Oh, more responsibility. No, it's an ability to respond moment to moment. When it becomes alive like this inside, the freedom is there, and we can face our own shadows, our own things, our own triggers, and we can face the others better because we understand them better, because we know it's not different from me. So,
okay.
Yeah, this is a dark retreat, it's just a big amplifier of this phenomenon. So it's good to have already some basis in meditation or having this strong attraction to know yourself, to be with yourself. If you don't have that, it can just be just a bad experience.
Yeah.
You will just feel punished or something. Why? I am locked in here. Oh, mama, why did I do this? You know, like you will just suffer the whole time. So it's not the point. Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned that dark retreats can be found across different traditions, and I want to ask you, how does it work in Kopangan? So if somebody is interested in coming and doing a dark retreat, can you tell us what are the steps so they get in touch with you, and then how long is it for? What do you provide? What kind of guidance?
So I will have to talk about the past because at the moment I had to close them because my lease of the land is finished. So I need to find another place. So, but as soon as I find another place, I will open again. The way it used to work is that people contact me mostly online, and then we talk a little bit. They have to fill up a form to see if they are fit, what has their experience already, how much they did meditation, and the minimum is 3 days. Like 3 days, it's a minimum to start to feel the effect of being in the dark. It's your senses go inside. You start to go inside. You cannot stop it. It's just you start to fall back onto yourself. So you need to be ready. You have to to be already just know how to observe your mind. That's all, without having to identify with your content of the thoughts. Yeah. So if you have that quality already, you can do easily 3 days. It's easy. And then the people who already done a lot of retreats and feel confident, then sometimes we do straight away 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Myself, I think the longest I did was 4 weeks, I think. And yeah.
Wow. So of course having like Vipassana kind of experience, because Vipassana is a meditation that typically involves spending time in a monastery in a very sort of like basic, quite uncomfortable sort of settings.
Yeah.
And you meditate all the time, you cannot talk. So
Yeah.
if you do a few of those, then the dark retreat is probably the next step, right?
Yeah, it depends. Some people never done Vipassana, for example. Sure, it's the best way to do it if you do Vipassana, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a different retreat where also you are silent. It could be, some people sometimes come from a different approach. I let the door open to anyone as long as there is no intoxicant in the dome, in the retreat. Like they're not allowed to take drugs or anything. Is to clean.
Yeah.
Anything they can practice whatever they want. If a Christian, why not? They could pray inside. I don't mind. You know?
And so they go in.
As long as it's yeah.
You provide food. Is that like,
Food
so there's a bed,
and everything.
there's
Yeah. There's a food. There's a place to sleep, like a mattress. It was. Yeah, and you just put it in forward. But sleeping becomes very much different. You know, it depends on your practice. You know, and sometimes I have people coming from also more like the psychedelic world. So it's funny because they are very much used to have altered state of consciousness through their taking ayahuasca, but because there's no more taking anything there, it's very different. It's a different conditioning. So most of the time I convince them not to do so long because they want to do long time and they think they can do it. And I say it's very different. You're not ready. I said, no, I've done many ayahuasca and stuff, so they want to book for a week. Then they say, okay, but you will leave before if you're not ready, you know. And said, you sure you want to do a small one? And most of the time, they cannot last because it's a different training. Yeah. When you train with the psychedelic, you become good at navigating spaces, but your relationship to yourself can be still not so seen as much as when you do a Vipassana, when you stay really with the pain inside, with the feelings inside, and you learn to detach, to observe, to let go, to burn it out, to surrender. It's very much different approach. Yeah.
And when they're inside, can they communicate with you? I mean, of course, there's no phone, nothing at all. You provide food.
Food, yes. So there's food twice a day. Most of the time, it was just twice a day. Coconut shake, and then one meal.
Yeah.
And that's enough most of the time.
Yeah, so they kind of like almost
they can have
fast.
they can have. You don't feel like eating there much.
No.
But I prevent people to also come with this big idea. I'm gonna fast. I'm gonna do this in Thailand. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna fast. And I say no. You have to take food. And then if you don't feel like eating in the dome after a day or two, then slowly you can go fasting if you want, but it has to come from within. I never really plan anything about this. It's good to be sustained so you can face yourself. You don't have to go too much. This is just the mind again, wanting to put more practice. The practice itself is just to be in the dark. After all, you don't need to fast.
And when you give them the meals, they can chat to you or not?
So it depends, some of them are really clear. They have their idea, I'm going to be in silence like I do. I just stay in silence. If something happened, I don't know, a pipe burst in the toilet or something, then they can write a note.
Okay.
So there's a note you can write in the dark, and you put in, or they want sometimes to change their meal. They have different choices, and they choose one, and then they want to change, so they can write, I want to eat now this, and they put it on the thing, and then I change the meals,
That's cool.
Yeah, so like that you can communicate, and if they're really like at the verge of breaking the thing and wanting to go out, then we can talk to the ventilation pipe.
Okay.
So I'm on the other
Whispering.
side. Yeah, and we just talk a little bit because the sound is amplified, and we just listen to each other, and then we see.
Very cool. And when they come out, I mean, of course, there's going to be some period of readjusting to the light and to the normal world.
So most of the time we come out evening time.
Yeah.
Yeah, evening time is a great time to come out because you just wear sunglasses, but the sun is gone. It's already dark, but still, when you come out of the dark, even at night, it feels very bright. Yeah, because you are, and everything is really much alive and everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you get feedback from them like a few days after, and you see like the experience having an impact?
It depends on how long time they stay, and it depends on the relationship I had with them. Some people are really communicating, and then we can meet again, and the thing. And some people are more secret. They just do the retreat. We go, I don't know what happened. Okay. It depends.
Very
it depends
cool.
on the people. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking earlier that a common friend of ours on the island did a retreat recently, or like maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And I've heard of few people that try this experience, which is must be very fascinating. And I suppose if you're a spiritual seeker and somebody that wants to learn about the thought, the mind, the spirit, and understand themselves in a sort of deeper way, this is a practice that can be done as well. I've done a couple of Vipassanas, but I'm not ready to, shorter Vipassana, not even the 10 days. So I'm going to get there very gradually, So my journey is a little bit more gradual, but I hope maybe in the future to try as well, like 3 days, if I feel really called for it. I'm sure it could be a very good experience.
Yes, there is so much to experience in the dark. It's amazing. Yeah, a lot of visions, and also just the peace, that you can reach in there. And one of the best effects, I guess, what I like the most when I'm in the dark is that you can be easily, your consciousness can be delocalized.
What does it mean?
Because after a few days you completely lose the sense of your body in a way. The way you look at it, you see your body all the time, so it reminds you of your borders, of your skin, But when you meditate and your eyes are closed or you are in the dark, what happened in the fact of a direct experience, you just feel sensations, right? In your body, your feelings and stuff. And the sensations, are they inside my body or outside? I mean, where is my body then?
Yeah.
Right? And also, we are so used to be localized behind the eyes.
Okay.
Localized in the head, right? Because we are standing, we always like this, the eyes are there, so our attention is always like seeing us here, right? And that's why we always looking in the brain and looking for the brain for some answers or something. But actually, when you're in the dark, after some time, you could be anywhere. You don't have to be behind the eyes. You could be here, you could be in your belly, you could be outside your body, you could be anywhere. It doesn't matter. And because you're delocalized,
It's a kind of a revelation of sort as well, that you're not your body actually, right? Like your consciousness doesn't have the boundary of the body. It can go
it's
anywhere.
more like the physical body. You don't see you just your physical body. You're still a body, but not just the physical body. So there's still an identification of some sort, of some kind of like something here, a person or something, but it's less attached to the idea of being the physical body. Because the first really strong attachment is the physical body. That's what we learn when we're a baby. First, we are also delocalized when we come into this world, right? And by repetition of the word, Santosh, Luca, Daddy, Luca, and we repeat, and then we start to become.
Who am I, Luca? Wow.
And then we become a body, and we start to attach to this idea.
And then you have all the phases, the Freudian phases, the anal phases.
And also there's a phase where if we talk to a kid, it just it doesn't say, I want this. It say, Luca, I want this. Do you want to go there? Luca wants to go there. It doesn't say I, because it's not yet totally affirming inside.
And also the baby, I think, identifies with the mother a lot more as well, and doesn't really see the boundaries between himself and the mother. It's fascinating how we actually, come into life and then start developing our state of consciousness to then become adults. And it's fascinating. If you're interested in learning, of course you can read books and look at what we call, like the exoteric, or what is outside. You can learn about science and the physical world, have a mechanistic approach, a materialistic approach. But a lot of knowledge is actually internal, right? Exactly. A lot of knowledge is our experience of ourselves, and there's so much to learn and discover inside, possibly as much as there is outside.
Yes, and even more, because actually everything happens inside. Even there is a sound out there, the sound is translated inside, is first heard in my ear, right? So before the sound is touching my ear, it doesn't exist in my field of awareness. Everything which appears in my field of awareness appears inside. So it's pretty strong, It's like, so then that's why they have all these koans in Zen or something, like if you are in the forest, imagine there's no one around, and a tree broke in the middle of the night, and there's no one there to hear the sound. Does the sound exist?
If nobody witnesses it. It's a good question to ask.
It's a good question, So these are koans, things we can always find an answer with the mind, but at the same time is never really answered.
Yes, and the normal world of society, Western society particularly, is very concerned with what is outside, the materialistic, right? The material, and that's what the exoteric means. But esoteric means what's inside, and esoteric is also associated to practices that are not very common. But the fact that we are more concerned with the outside than the inside maybe is an historical fact. Of course, we want to be safe in our environment, but the more the environment is benign and safe, the more it's interesting to go inside rather than outside. And
the way the yogis look at it also is that our sense perception, they direct to the outside. So they point your attention. It's always about the power of attention. Where is your attention moment to moment? If you're able to know that question all the time, you're free. Once you hold your attention, you know exactly where your attention is and what you're doing, you're free. So if you observe the senses, they notice by that direct experience through the practice that the senses are always directed towards the outside, like you say. We interact with the world but there is one of the gates of the 10 gates. So we have 10 gates. They say we have 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nose, the penis or the the sex organs and the anus. All of this are 9. And the 10th one is the third eye, they say, and this one goes inside. So once you are able not to react anymore from your sense perception, so you shut down your sense perception kind of thing, then automatically you fall back into yourself. And then you are becoming yourself again, your natural state. It's like if you take a string we react, we always outside through the perception, we react, and then we stop reacting to the sense perception, so the attention goes back inside. We let go of one end of the rope, and it goes back to the natural state. Yeah, it's simple, but it really works if you understand this. Always finding my answers on the outside, but the answer is inside.
Yes.
Yeah, it's internal.
I like that. And rebalancing this, because it's a lot out, everything is outside.
Yeah.
Rebalancing with some inner life that is more rich, and you understand more, you make sense of it, can be very, very useful for that.
Yeah.
For a better life, possibly. You said at the beginning, we want to move away from suffering.
Yes.
And a way of doing it is to understand where suffering comes from, and how we can sort of, change the way that we perceive this suffering as well. Right?
Exactly.
So
when we become conscious
work.
of it and accepting that it's part of life, it's a part of the way the mind works, then you're able to detach from it. And you still enjoy your life, but you don't need to create always new suffering.
Yeah.
There will be still some suffering happening, but not your own suffering anymore. It makes a big difference. Yeah.
Amazing, yes. Cool. Well, Santosh, great.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have one more question for you, obviously, because somebody that traveled extensively, who's been a nomad for so long. I mean, you could go and live anywhere you wanted, and you still are in Copenhagen. So, what is special about Copenhagen today?
Yeah. So, what is special? I guess my life is here now. Like you say, I could always start somewhere else. But it has been good, I don't know. I believe that there is always forces of life around me would guide me and show me if it's for me to live here or not, and always had very good opportunities came here for me.
Yeah.
I found the land 15 years ago was a really good deal, and I could start the dark retreats and build them and live there very simple on the land with a solar power, self-sustained, so it's always like that, to live very close to nature. And over there it was great, it was very quiet and everything. Now the island changed, I can be like an old fart and go, it was much better before, or embrace the change. This is what the flexible mind does, right? To understand everything changed in my body also, everything changed outside. So okay, now it's really busy, there's much more people coming, everybody's talking about real estate now, it's a thing. So I don't really know what happened to me there. We'll see. I have a really good job. I love to teach the philosophy, I love to teach the pranayama and give some students at least a chance to experience yoga in a deeper level, and this I really appreciate. So I think there's a lot of chance I'm still going to be here. Yeah.
I hope so. You remember I got to know you quite a bit during the sharing circle. You remember?
Oh yeah.
So we were both part of a sharing circle. I was part for 1.5 years. You almost as well, right? For a long time.
Maybe a year or something. Yeah.
Yeah. When you share every week about your feelings and emotions and things in the moment, you really get to connect with people. And then of course we did quite a bit of improv together as well.
Yes, improv was great together.
Yeah. So
you were my teacher of improv.
Well, like facilitator. Yeah.
Which I'm very grateful for. That you were great.
Well, Santosh, lovely talking to you today, and Kapunka, thank you.